Okay. Break's over. So, hello everybody, welcome back again. So I'm going to invite Melissa to the floor. Melissa's very concerned about the growing control of the banks are exercising over us via electronic transactions. She'll explain how vital it is to keep cash alive. She understands by research what a danger the banks are and the plans they have for their own benefit. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Melissa. Thank you. Oh, yes. You can put that.
I can't see with the very vocals. I can't see down. Sorry, I'm just trying to get it so that it like is there. Perfect. Brilliant.
Okay, I'm going to go off script tonight. I don't normally go off script, but there is a lot of dots to join. When you're looking at this from a macroeconomic point of view, if you frame everything in the context of an economic collapse, over this past few years, it starts to make a lot more sense. If you think you've lost your freedoms over these past few years, you haven't seen anything yet. Without the freedom to transact, all other freedoms can be taken away with ease. We are undergoing a currency reset, a controlled demolition of the economy to bring about a great reset with the key aspects of decarbonising and digitalising everything to control every aspect of the economy and your life. Why? Because we have come to the crisis point of the economic time bomb from 2008. The collapse of the current fiat debt-based system where debt and consumption were the goal to achieve the demand for ever-expanding profits. The financial system is debt. Most are enslaved to it. To service the debt in any capacity, you need a vibrant economy. In 2019, note the date, there was a global economic contraction and overheating in the market. The financial lockdown of the economy helped to ease this and keep it from being exposed. That's when the money printing actually started. The currency is backed by nothing but faith in a bank ledger system. There's very little money, mostly debt, but there is no real debt. It's an inflationary monetary system where the money supply is expanded to fund government spending. This is inflation. The consequence is higher prices. Inflation is more money chasing the same amount of goods and services. The debt is paid off with more debt, a Ponzi scheme of constantly expanding the money supply. The debt is a promise by the government, backed by the future taxes of its citizens, to the banks. All fiat currencies fail. As has previously happened, inflation of the currency causes it to lose value. This will eventually lead to its collapse and that of the economy it is attached to. Next, to keep the game going, a new form of currency is introduced to replace the failed one. They are proposing a central bank digital control system of social and carbon credits, a cashless society where transactions are made via a slave surveillance coin. This is a digital prison made possible by programmable money. They can dictate where and on what you spend it, limit energy or calorie consumption, force you to take medication, impose positive or negative interest rates, tax and fine you at will, impose lockdowns via geofencing, limiting the radius the central bank digital wallet will work within, or shut you out of the system if you do not comply with government policy. If cash is inflated away or becomes scarce, this is something that we need to be aware of. This has happened in Nigeria. We will be moving to the Prince Charles notes. It would be my guess that they will keep them in short supply, making the Queen Elizabeth redundant, thus moving people, if there's less notes about, it moves people into the digital world of cash. So it's something to watch out for. So if cash is inflated away or becomes scarce, you will have no options. Freedom demands options. While regional spheres of influence, such as the BRICS versus the West, are clashing regarding the global restructuring, if we look to the level above, just as every country was in lockstep with the pandemic response, every country is in lockstep with central bank digital currency. They will be able to track every single pound, dollar, euro, yen by the end of the decade. Augustin Karsten, manager of the Bank of International Settlements, that is the central bank of central banks, the top tier, said, this is a quote, "We don't know who's using a $100 bill today. The key difference with CBDC is the central bank will have absolute control on the rules and regulations that will determine the use of that expression of central bank liability, and also we have the technology to enforce that. A world of rations, permits, penalties and surveillance, with every detail of your life recorded and your finances put on a blockchain, all titles held in a digital form, all of your equity in a digital wallet to impose wealth or inheritance taxes that could leave you or your children with little or nothing of what you've earned over your lifetime. Since 2009, there has been an explosion of intelligent people solving and evolving blockchain issues, creating the ability to blockchain everything. The plan is to link it to a carbon tracker. MasterCard have already developed the Do Black card to track your carbon and cut you off, that's their own words, should you reach your carbon limit. The 1992 Kyoto Protocol allowed for the issuance and trading of carbon credits among countries' corporations, hence creating a new commodity from carbon. The intention is to extend this to individuals. You would expect people to question creating a currency out of carbon. After all, we are carbon beings exhaling carbon dioxide in a carbon world. And the people obsessed with the carbon footprint seem to be doing the least. I suggest they lead by example. No chance to buy credits or the right to pollute, provide blockchain transparency of all their finances, a fair money system that money and power cannot manipulate. The real drive behind the climate agenda is to create a new economy to profit from and control. 450 firms controlling around 40% of global assets are aligned to the Paris Agreement, with 130 trillion waiting to be deployed. If you don't get on board, you'll be economic roadkill. This is why you see all these companies going woke to the detriment of their sales and stock price. They need to increase the social aspect of their fictitious ESG score to access credit and access investors. BlackRock are hugely behind this. Green finance forces the collapse of businesses by only lending to false virtuous businesses as opposed to businesses that can actually be profitable. Finance will go to where it sees the incentive for the greatest return. Those who issue and regulate the carbon credits control the economy. There's a current hijacking of the food and resources under the carbon agenda. Stalin and Mao demonised the farmers, resulting in millions dying, as governments are ineffective and inefficient in production. It was then and is now a move towards totalitarian control. Governments cannot save you. They produce nothing. They have to take from someone to give. But you get the government you deserve by letting it happen. Further, the economy needs to adapt to a changing, ageing demographic of less consumers with disposable income. The plan is to move towards a subscription economy where you rent what you need. You never own it. This creates an unending revenue stream with a customer for life. The reset will happen. It has to, as the current system is beyond saving. It will either be dictated by a collection of non-elected billionaire, self-appointed gods, and it will be in their favour if we don't stand up and take responsibility for restructuring the world we leave behind for future generations. So, sounds grim, doesn't it? Prophet of doom. So what can you do? Firstly, to acknowledge for ourselves and to teach our children that freedom isn't passed down in DNA. It is constantly under attack. It has to be actively maintained. This knowledge needs to become generational. But freedom must be balanced with responsibility, and humans have a tendency to delegate responsibility. This must be challenged. Do not support cashless businesses or carbon tracking businesses. They are acting as agents for the agenda. We know the ballot box rarely works, so vote with your wallet. This does work. We've seen this with Bud Light. It can't happen without people turning on each other. This one's tempting, but constantly reset yourself to come from a position of love. Do not be used as a pawn in the game of divide and conquer. The only thing that they fear is for us to realise this and unite against the common enemy. And most importantly, it can't happen without a digital ID. This is the last gate to rebel at. They need digital ID to gather your data and control your access to society. Then they'll link it to the source of their power, their monopoly on money. Once they have everyone on a surveillance control system, it's a small step to link it to CBDC. So how do they plan to implement digital ID? Well, they do play fair, they do tell us. In a 2018 paper, the WEF set out the framework in an insight report titled Identity in a Digital World. It will be introduced for internet use, access to food, travel, healthcare, financial services, government services, etc. To quote from the paper, this digital identity determines what products, services and information we can access, or conversely, what is closed off to us. You won't have to get it, only if you want to benefit from subsidies, operate a business, use a supermarket, see a doctor, participate in society. Does that sound familiar? It's already in progress. India have the Aadhaar card linked to bank accounts, welfare schemes, pensions and public health insurance. In 2015, Iran introduced biometric ID cards for pretty much the same, including food subsidies. For example, you could buy bread without the app, but at extortionate prices, affordable prices with the ID. Then we have DIA, launched in Ukraine in 2020, again, note the date, as the state in a smartphone. 3/4 of the funding came from US aid. And with the onset of war and the need to access government services, it's already been used by 65% of eligible adults. Seems the uptake benefited from the chaos. They're now looking to export it to other countries. In the south of Ireland, there's the public service card to access government services and passports. We are currently under trials with the Encompass programme in healthcare, and I suspect this will fall under the realm of digital biometric ID. It will be marketed as an effort to keep us safe. It is not to verify your identity and enhance security. It is for surveillance and control. Reject any aspect of a digital ID, regardless of the seduction of convenience or free stuff. During the pandemic, your ability to work, produce, socialise or travel was taken away, or at the very least restricted. The infrastructure of the COVID pass was not for a virus, it was for a digital ID leading to CBDC. If you comply, you get to participate, combined with the sentiment that you are at risk to society by exhaling. This is to prepare you for carbon credits. If you go along to get along with digital ID, know that it is a ratchet system. You can only go forward, you can't go back, and ultimately you will be giving your children twice the battle to fight. The prison is being built and your phone is your prison warden. If there's one thing that you take away from everything that I say, I'm going to read that again. The prison is being built and your phone is your prison warden. Learn to step away from your phone for at least a portion of the day. Turn off notifications, get a Faraday pouch. You own it. Stop letting it draw you in. This does not work without internet access and a smartphone. This can go one of two ways over the next few years. Permanent slavery, and they're developing the technology to do so with artificial intelligence and central bank digital currency. This combination would make it very difficult for another revolution to occur. And your government are passing laws to make this possible. Or we decentralise control and the people take back the power. The solution isn't entirely to fight against it. We also have the option to sidestep it and create alternatives within the realm of finance, food production, health and education. Remember, freedom equals choice. Choices are being reduced and we need to push back and expand them. There's no easy way out of this. You either stand up and fight, which is not easy and it does take sacrifice, or you do nothing and submit yourself and future generations to living under total surveillance, both externally and internally, with advancements in brain transparency technology, and therefore totalitarian control. They've previously held a monopoly on information via the media, but the internet allows us access to broadcast and consume information, and this is dangerous to them, as it provides an ability to shine a light on and expose what they usually do in the dark. Hence, there are various disinformation boards and ministries of truth in this information war, being set up to try and take back control of information on the internet, to combat this variable that they do not yet have control over. So, take what you hear today and pass it on. They are censoring because they want you to think that you are alone or one of a few, but the silent majority are coming on board. There's a mass psychological manipulation, and everyone is subjected to it, including the people in this room. The feeling of hopelessness against a giant. Don't ever feel hopeless. This is the goal of psychological manipulation, because without the hope to win the battle for freedom, you would never begin to act towards a solution. They need our data. Data is the new gold. It feeds the artificial intelligence. It's only as good as the data it receives. So be precious about what data you give out. Exercise your right to data protection. So often we are giving this data away by inferred consent. There is a drive to make every interaction human, computer human. Zoom, FaceTime, text, etc. Resist this as much as possible. In short, we want the technology without the enslavement. Terrifying as all this sounds, it won't work. With intolerable control and oppression from the few, the many have rebelled and won every single time. Good people tend to be passively good. Bad people are actively bad. But there's more of us than them, and we are becoming increasingly active. Actively good people create revolutions. No government can withstand 3 to 5% of the population rising up against it, but it has to be active and sustained. They go after the weakest among us. We are the strongest, and we must remain strong. Our demands are simple. Let us live our life freely to trade, socialise, travel, etc. within the realm of the law. These are non-negotiable. Consider why you're having this life experience. What is your purpose? Surely it has to be more than 5 days on, 2 days off, from the age of 5 to 65, just to gather stuff, pay off a mortgage and die. If you want to know what you own, die tomorrow. All that you take with you is the love you gave and the love you received. The challenge is to keep your soul in a world where evil forces are trying to buy it. I sincerely appreciate you taking the time to listen to me today. Time is one of the rare things that money can't buy, so thank you for giving me some of yours today. And to steal from Orwell, don't let it happen. It depends on you.
Well, thank you, Melissa. That was inspiring.
Yeah, it was.
So, and finally, it's over to Monica. I'd like to welcome Monica, all the way from Australia. And Monica, I'm going to let Monica introduce herself.
You take that. You give me this.
Yes, and I take that.
Okay. Well, the first thing I'm going to do is say I think the party downstairs is because did year 12s, did the people who just finished school get their results today? Is that why? And we have someone in the room, Gerry's son, who got all A's. So let's give him a round of applause. They're the only 2 young men here. So Gerry, thank you for bringing them to bring our averages, you know, down. It's really, really good. And obviously you guys are the future. So you've got a good dad. So I have faith in, you know, where you're going to go. But anyway, to my story. So if you don't know me, my name is Monica Smit. I'm from Australia, and you probably have heard maybe a little bit about how bad Australia was during COVID. I'm not going to go into it because you know, but it was the worst in Melbourne, especially. It was the worst lockdown in the world. It's not a competition we wanted to win, but I will tell you that we are really strong because of it. So, you know, like life, the mistakes and the trauma that we have make us better people. So I will tell you that they made a very strong freedom community in Melbourne, and whatever happens, we are probably more ready than anyone else because of how bad it was. So I'm pretty glad that actually that happened, and to some extent it was kind of exciting in a weird way to, you know, act like a criminal when you have never been a criminal before, to run from the police and to get shot at with rubber bullets and tear gas and all this sort of stuff. And it sounds really terrible, but then when you go to a protest that's peaceful, it's kind of boring. So, I mean, look, I'm a bit crazy like that, and that's why I think what happened to me happened to me. So basically in August 2020, which is, you know, really when people started to speak out, if they were going to speak out, you know, it was like, okay, there's something not quite right here. I started an organisation called Reignite Democracy Australia. I had no idea what I was doing. I still barely know what I'm doing. I get a lot of inspiration from God, or else I wouldn't be able to do what I did. And literally within 2 weeks, I did a live stream. It got tons of views. And then I somehow managed to get a hold of this bus that was a big bus that was signed up with Daniel Andrews, who was our Premier's face on the side going like this. And it was like a mockery photo, and it said "Sack Dan Andrews," which means fire Daniel Andrews. And it was in the peak of lockdown, and I was a journalist, because you can call yourself a journalist if you want, but I was doing journalist work. And the bus was my taxi. What can you do, right? Nothing. So that's when I started getting the attention of the authorities, the mainstream media, and literally within 2 weeks, I was the poster girl for anti-lockdown, and I did not plan that. I had no idea what I was doing. Within like 2 months, I had 8 staff, 50,000 subscribers, and no idea what to do. But, so because of that, obviously, I had a big voice. It was obviously needed, or else there wouldn't have been people following it, right? And so the government didn't really like that, especially Daniel Andrews. So they were like, we need to shut this girl up somehow. So the loophole that they were doing to people like me, and they had done it before me, okay, is they would arrest you for incitement, which is basically like if I was to convince you to do an armed robbery, but I didn't do it myself, I would still be culpable because I coerced you to do it on my behalf. But in this case, it's kind of like us going in a car and I encourage you to park in a no parking zone and you get a ticket and I get a criminal charge. That's kind of what it is, because I was encouraging people to break COVID restrictions, which is only a fine. It's not a criminal offence. So it was a loophole that they were using, but they never intended to actually go through with the charge. All they were doing was trying to get you on bail conditions that would restrict you from speaking. So there was about 15 bail conditions, and one of them was, and by the way, the charge was because I promoted a protest. I put a poster on Telegram. That's why I got arrested. It is really that simple. So the bail conditions, there was a curfew from 7 p.m. to 6 a.m. every day. I was on bail for 2 years, could you imagine? But really the most draconian ones were, I think it was 7 and 8. One, I had to take down everything from my website that was in opposition to the COVID restrictions. Not encouraging people to break COVID restrictions, just in opposition to the restrictions. The entire website was in contradiction. It was in opposition, right? And it was getting 50,000 views a week, sometimes 80,000. I'm not telling you that to boast. I'm telling you that there was a need for this service. That's why people were looking at it. So the other one was I could not speak personally, even in the comfort of my own home, against the COVID restrictions. So I'm not a hero, okay, but I was in the right position. I had no children. I have no children. I have a very supportive family. We're all the same. I haven't lost anybody I love during this time. I'm very lucky. And I was the right person for the job at the time. And I guess I could have said no to the call, but I didn't. I said yes, which means I didn't sign the bail conditions. And the lawyer's like, you know, his job is to keep you out of prison. He's like, you know, you can just sign and then we can fight it in 3 weeks. And I'm like, nah, I'll just do it. And 3 days beforehand, I had a dream about getting arrested, not signing bail conditions and going to prison. So when I got arrested, I wasn't even scared. I was like, oh, that was real. Okay, here we are. So I think God prepared me for it. And look, I won't go into too much details or else I go over 15 minutes. But the point is I said no to the bail conditions. I went to prison for 22 days in solitary confinement because I wouldn't take a PCR test. Maybe it was safer in solitary anyway. So I didn't get to go outside once, but it was fine. It was pretty relaxing in there. But we appealed the bail conditions and we got all of those ridiculous ones taken away. And then when they charged other people with incitement after me, they were only able to give them the amended bail conditions that I fought for. So it set a precedent. It was worth every second. And the funnier thing is that they were trying to silence me, right? And it did the exact opposite. And I find that so hilarious. I was literally laying in my prison bed, looking at the roof, literally laughing out loud because I had nothing else to do. Laughing out loud that these police are probably like, oh, we did not see that coming because it went overseas, you know, blah, blah, blah. And I wouldn't be here if I hadn't gone to prison, because if I called someone like, I don't know, Robert Kennedy Jr. and I said, hi, I'm Monica, I started an organisation, whatever. Hi, I'm Monica, I went to prison because I posted a protest. Oh, hello, who are you? So the point is, and the reason I'm telling you that is because it's funny watching them try to stop us, because a lot of the times they actually do the exact opposite. So even when they're attacking you, even in your personal lives, see it as an opportunity to grow, to learn, etc. And kind of laugh at it, because to be honest, they're scrounging around trying to stop us, and it's really, really quite entertaining. And I'll just tell you quickly, a few months later, I pled not guilty, of course, because I didn't incite anyone to do anything illegal. And so they thought they'd just dig a little bit deeper, and they got a warrant out signed by a magistrate. Can you believe this? But of course the government paid the wages of the magistrate, so you can't really expect anything different. So much for a democracy. But they wanted me to sit in a room with a couple of police officers and literally go through my phone and give them password access to everything in my phone. Google Maps, Google Docs, Google Drive, my database of over 100,000 emails. Some of them had addresses and phone numbers. So literally they would have 100,000 political dissidents in the country, and when or if communism ever comes in, they would start with that database and it would be my fault. So I fought it, I lost $80,000, so lost at an appeal. Another judge said it was okay, can you believe it? By the way, WhatsApp, you know, Signal, everything. All the personal emails, all my work emails. Anyway, so I thought I'd give it a shot and just say no again. So I said, look, if you're gonna arrest me, just let me know so I can be in my pajamas, so I can be comfortable for that first night in jail, in remand. And also, by the way, it would have been another criminal offence, so it's a whole new problem, and you're breaching your bail, so I would go back to the jail for 3 months. So they could have just put me in jail for 3 months without any questions. Anyway, 3 days later, they dropped the charges. So the point is, in that scenario, sometimes, well, in my scenario, playing the game, pushing them a little bit further works really well. They've now dropped all the charges, and of course I get to go after them. And when I'm going after them, they can't drop any charges because I'm in control. I don't really have any expectation of winning because the system is so corrupt, but I'm just gonna make some noise and punishment by process like what they did to me. So that's why I'm here. That's why I'm able to sort of sit up here and have some type of, at least authority to talk about the experience of the freedom movement that I was in Melbourne. Now, in the last 3 months, I've been travelling around Europe. I've been up to Norway and Sweden, and I've driven 12,000 kilometres in the last 3 months, and I've been meeting with groups just like this. Now, you might think that, oh, this room could be a bit fuller, right? Oh, of course it could be. There are chairs here. But this is a lot of people in the situation that we're in, because we don't have a global crisis that's affecting all of us every day. If this was mid-lockdown kind of thing, this room would be absolutely packed to the rafters. You know, so the fact that you're here means that you understand that we're now in preparation mode as opposed to reactive mode. So I have two main sort of messages that I want to say, that I have been saying. One is that events like this and community groups, I believe, are the best way to protest or push back against globalism, because if you have a support network around you, you're going to be able to say no for longer, and it's going to be a lot harder for them to manipulate you because you've got your posse, you've got your clique. If you've got some gardens, if you can organise those types of things, that's going to be really, really important. And remember, globalists hate it when we catch up. Everything they did during lockdown was to break us apart and stop us from communicating, just like Melissa was saying about everything's going to be a digital situation. They don't want us to connect because they know that ideas come when people meet each other. None of you have an original idea, okay? And if you think you do, you're arrogant, because all your ideas are a combination of the random things you hear or see or talk to people. And that's one of the reasons why I'm traveling, because I'm telling you now, one random person can say one sentence that can change my life. But if I'm not in the situation to meet those people, then I'm not going to get that sentence. And that's why we need to keep catching up, even if you can't be bothered, even if it's just a weekly coffee catch up with a group of 5 people. This is really, really important. So if you can't be bothered, just imagine that it is a protest. Imagine that you are actually annoying the globalists every time you catch up with people. So that's that's one topic. And the other thing is, so I've been saying this sentence for a while, and it's actually helped me out a lot. And the sentence is, we are ready. Now people say, well, what are you ready for? And my answer is anything, anything. Like there's two paths that we could be on, right? We can go down the digital ID, path that Melissa was explaining that was kind of scary, and we can sign up to all that. We can buy everything off Amazon. I don't blame you if you buy stuff on Amazon, but I'm just saying, like, it's all part of the system, it is. We've chosen that we don't want that path. We want this path. So why don't we just imagine that we're ready, even if we're not? Because if you say something to yourself over and over again, you will wake up one day and you will actually feel ready, even if it's just mentally, and then the physical side will come with it. And what it has done for me, and I am a test to this because I've been doing it to myself, it has changed my perception about everything that I see. When in Australia, there is a censorship bill coming in at the moment. It's hilarious because everyone is going to be subject to this censorship bill, except for the members of except for Parliament and mainstream media. So, I mean, it's just great. When I see that sort of stuff 3 years ago, I tell you exactly what I would be doing. I'd be running around like a headless chicken, and I'd be doing petitions, and I'd be doing protests, and I'd be trying to appeal to these members of Parliament, Now I look at that and I just go, you know what? Just bloody do it already. Stop talking about it. Let's get it on, because I know I don't want to be naive. I know it's going to be hard. Okay, it could be 2 years of starvation, and might have to go to the bush. We might not be able to travel. We might not be able to buy groceries. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but we've already decided that we're on that path. And the earlier they do it, the earlier we can push back, and the earlier our kids and our grandkids and our nieces and nephews can get back to living life. So instead of being afraid, we can be excited, because if they have too long to prepare and do it step by step, like Melissa was talking about, and sorry, I keep referring to her because she was just the last speaker, so it's easy, but if they have 20 years to bring in the digital ID and make it, not mandatory, it's a choice, it's a convenience, then they might get somewhere. But if we can somehow collectively be like, yeah, whatever, bring it on, it's going to annoy them. And they're going to make mistakes because they're just humans like us. And you know what? Anyone can have a fancy website and make it look like they have 200 people in their organisation, but they're not doing well. What if they are in crisis mode? What if COVID was supposed to be it and we stopped them because of the pushback? I don't think they expected it. I don't know, I'm just saying. The point is, let's be excited about what they have in store, because this is saying that I love at the moment, and it is, don't interfere with the enemy when they're in the process of destroying themselves. Look, a lot of people are going to get hurt. Kids are being mutilated. Kids are losing their innocence, but we can't save them all. And we can only do what we can do. And if a parent is going to bring their 2-year-old to a drag queen story time, we probably can't save that child. And we should focus on what we can do, and that is wait for them to make a mistake. Look at COVID. Look how many people woke up, right? We should be grateful for how many people woke up. I know a lot of you were awake before COVID, right? And now you've got all these communities and all these friends. We should be grateful for that. We should be proud of what we achieved and not be too greedy, because another awakening will come, but it will not come right now. Now is not the time to run around on the street corner and try to wake everyone up, because there isn't a crisis. They're not going to listen. Well, not all of them. But when a crisis happens, pain and suffering, that is our chance to shine, because we have learnt so much. We understand not to be reactive. We understand to be proactive. We understand how to be loving, how to forgive those people for what they did to us. We do need to forgive them, because they're going to go through a really hard time when they wake up, and we've already been through our hard time. So it's our chance to stand up for them and welcome them into our community, forgive them for what they did. But the point is be excited instead of being scared. That's pretty much my message. And I have a few things for you guys that I want to share with you. And you guys know Catherine Austin Fitz. She's an investment banker from America. And I went to her house and she uses cash for everything. She has 40% of her subscribers, and she has a financial company that she's had subscribers for since 2004, so it's been around for a long time. 40% of her subscribers send her cash in envelopes. Now, it's a lot more administration, but she walks the walk instead of just talking the talk. And I'm telling you guys now, I know you're just one person, but you're not. You know that, right? So if you can use cash whenever you can, do it, and it actually feels really good, especially when you have the perfect change. There's something really magical about it. And what I have is on my, and I'll show you what else I've got, but on my website, there's this little piece of paper and it's got 4 dot points about why it's important to use cash and to keep cash alive. The first one is to save money on bank fees. Like, that's not a conspiracy. Everyone can be like, oh yeah, that's a good idea, right? To keep profits within the small business, etc., etc. You can print 10 of these to a page, cut them out. Every time you pay with cash, you just give it to the teller and you just say, you can read this in your own time. And I've never had a bad experience, especially the little Asian ladies. They usually hug me and they tell me that, like, they spend hundreds of dollars in transaction fees a month, because $100, taking inflation away, $100 stays $100 no matter how many transactions you do if it's cash. But if it's with a card, after 10 transactions, it's gone. And guess who has it? The banks, right? So this is on my website. You mentioned Faraday bags. So this is a Faraday bag. When you can, if you can put your phone in this, it cuts off all the signal instantly. And it's just a good habit to get into. I know it's hard, but you can start with half an hour a day. Now, I've got some new ones at the moment, and I've decided to put some words on it, and it says, ha ha, you can't hear me now. And and the other one is ha ha, where did I go? And you just put it on the cafe. You go to a cafe, you put your phone in it, you put it there, and your friend will be like, what do you mean? And it's a great conversation starter. This and the cash is a really easy planting seed conversation. I have some stickers from Catherine Austin Fitz that talk about keeping cash alive. They're not my favorite, but they're free, so you should just have one. And I also have, this is my favorite, it's a little wristband and it says, we are ready. And you don't have to put it on your wrist, okay? Because for some women, it won't suit your outfit, you know, like glamorous, you girls you probably don't like this. I don't really wear it either, but if you put it on your car windscreen or something, it just reminds you that it's okay, we're gonna do it, we're gonna fight. It might be hard, but we're gonna do it anyway, because bloody hell, we've chosen this road and that's it, we're gonna do it. The other thing is sorry, I couldn't hear you.
What about boys' outfits?
What about boys' outfits?
Will they suit boys' outfits?
Yeah, I don't have that. I've got my business cards here, and I answer all my emails personally at the moment. And the website there, that's where you can get these little keep cash alive. And I promise you, it's super empowering. I wish that you knew how empowering it was, because it really, really is. Also, the last thing is, and then I'm pretty much done, is I am working with Children's Health Defence. I don't know if you know them. They're really big against childhood vaccines. And I know everyone's on different pages with that, and that's fine. But they really do care about childhood vaccines, and childhood adverse reactions. And of course, they were really heavy into the COVID stuff as well. Most people don't know that they actually have a European chapter. They've got 55 translators who actually translate all their articles into like all the languages of Europe. And most people are subscribed to the USA database thinking that they're subscribed to CHD, but they're not. So what I'm going to do at the end is I'm going to get all my goodies at the table outside, and if you want some goodies, you can, and I'm going to get your email address and subscribe you to my database and to Children's Health Defence. Obviously, everything is a choice, okay? We're freedom fighters. And freedom lovers, I should say. And one last thing, and then I'm going to go, is that I know that there's a lot of infighting within the freedom community right now, but that's human nature. Don't get sad about it. It's only because there isn't this big crisis. But another thing that's going to be beautiful and magical about the next crisis is all of that is going to go away. We're all going to unite, Catholics, Protestants, New Agey people, even in Ireland maybe. Sorry, I don't know if I can make jokes like that, because I've just learned about the history. Sorry, maybe you'll fight together. I don't know, but the point is, it's actually going to be really exciting. Like, it's going to be exciting, and we're going to be here for it, and we've made a decision and we're going to stick to it, because you know what? It's better to be in pain and doing the right thing than happy and a slave, right? So that's it from me.
Thank you, Melissa. Thank you for all the speakers. That's it. I have nothing to add to that. Just the MC. So thank you all for turning out tonight, and you can all meet the speakers now before you go. Anyone that wants a one-to-one.
I'm going at the back.
Thank you very much.